Good afternoon, 4th of July weekend. Good to be back. I haven't done a video in about 6 months, so I figured I better get back to it. I got a lot of weird cartridges and old cartridges and interesting cartridges that I'd like to give short, cartridge talks on. And today, if you saw the moniker, the cartridge I'm going to talk about is one of my favorite little bitty cartridges to play with, the 22 Hornet. Now, the 22 Hornet has been around for a while. It actually started out as a black powder round, the 22 Winchester centerfire. And the 22 Winchester centerfire they brought it out in about 1885. And Winchester chambered it in rifles, and some other people chambered it in rifles. And it was a lead bullet, .228 diameter, running about 1,600 or so feet a second. Black powder number, you could reload it very easily. It got to be pretty popular with people who were, small game hunting and whatever, because it did offer a leg up on the 22 rimfire and probably even the 25 rimfire cartridges that were available. So it was, a natural for them to use it for that purpose. That rocked along till, about 1925. But in the meantime, the Europeans discovered this round, and they took the round, changed it dimensionally just a smidgen, not much. They changed the bullet diameter from .228 to .222 and put a jacketed bullet in it, if what I was reading was correct, and they hopped it up to about 1,900 feet a second, so a little bit faster. They were chambering it in drillings and single shots over in Europe, and I actually a while back saw a box of 5.6 Veerling ammunition. 5.6 by 35R is what they called it. I don't know if it's still available or not, but the cartridge became pretty popular in Europe, so I imagine somebody probably still making it. Well, 1925, they phased out the 22 Winchester centerfire, and Winchester went over and talked to the guys at Springfield Armory with Colonel Townsend Wheeler and all those guys, and they took and came out with a 22 centerfire. And what they did was they put a .223 or .224 bullet in it. I've seen bullets chambered in both or made in both. So, but .224 is the standard, and they hiked it up to about 2,600 feet a second. That became an instant hit. To make it so that it couldn't be chambered in the older rifles, they took the shoulder. The shoulder is a sloping shoulder. It's like a 25-35. It's that kind of sloping thing. They moved it forward just a hair, and I think they changed the rim diameter too, just a smidge. So you couldn't put it in the older rifles and cause catastrophic destruction. Oddly enough, there's not a whole lot of difference otherwise in the brass, because I bought this barrel about 25 years ago. This is a 14-inch tapered Bullberry Barrel Works barrel in 22 Hornet. It has a 3-power burris on it, which is a surprisingly clear optics. It's only 3 power, but considering that I don't do a whole lot of plinking out past 100 yards with it, it's perfectly adequate for what I do with it. But when I got that and got the dies for it, I was looking for brass, and I ordered some brass from Midway, and I got a bag of brass off of the Thompson Center list, and there's probably 400 or 500 cases in there. And in those cases, when I'm digging through them, because they were used, once fired, multiple fired cases, there were some 22 Winchester centerfire brass in there. There was like 6 of them, which is kind of interesting. So I've got some of those in my collection. Even though they've been reformed to Hornet, they're still, the case is stamped 22 WCF. So it's kind of interesting to find those, because they haven't been available since around 1925. So I'll tell you, some of that brass is pretty old, but I enjoy the round. I'll use it for plinking and, a little bit of hunting. I'll shoot a coyote with it every now and then if I have the opportunity to do so. Got a nuisance one. Performance is a big step up from the 22 Magnum. Yeah, there are some other small 22 centerfires out there, the 22's TCM, the 218B, the 5.7 by 28. 218B is a little more powerful than the 22 Hornet, but not a whole lot. I think about 100 feet a second. So it'd be like the equivalent of the Ackley, 22 Ackley Hornet. So it's, you know, a little bit more case capacity, so you get a little bit more velocity. But overall, big step up from the 22 Magnum to what you can find nowadays. Like I said, factory ammunition is supposed to go around 2,600 feet a second. Out of the 14-inch barrel that I use, I'm getting around between 24 and 2,500 with 40 grainers. With 45 grainers, I'm in the 23s, and with 50 grainers, 22s into the low 23s, 2,300 feet a second. The gun actually likes 50 grainers. It shoots them pretty well. I got some instances where I've shot them at 100 yards with, you know, the scope on it off of a rest, and, you know, getting sub 3/4 inch groups for a 3-power optic at 100 yards plinking. I think that's pretty good for what I do with it. And the reason it's kind of nice to have it liking the 50 grain bullets is because you can get 50 grain bulk bullets a lot easier than you can get 40s and 45s. So I haven't tried any 35s in it, but I bet it'd scream. So that's my opinion on it. I actually like the round a whole lot. I think it's, you know, it's not near as popular as it used to be. I don't think it's going anywhere. It has a niche. It's a classic cartridge that guys, you know, like to shoot. I was at a range a while back and ran into a guy at the range, and he had a Ruger 77 22 Hornet, you know, bolted with a rotary magazine in it. And I was like, that's a really neat gun. The one that I would really like to have is, I think the Ruger used to make a number 3, and I think they made the number 1 in 22 Hornet also, but the Ruger number 3 and 22 Hornet would be just a phenomenal little fun gun to chunk around and shoot. Like I said, I really like the round. I think it's, you know, it's nowhere near as powerful as the modern 22 centerfires that we have. You're talking about the 222 with a 50 grain bullet going, you know, right at 3,000 feet a second, 223 surpassing that, and then you got 22 250 and all these other rounds. Yeah, it's a neat round. It's fun and it's cheap to shoot. It doesn't burn but about 10 grains of powder or so, so it's not a hassle to get a lot of loads out of a pound of powder. And my favorite powder to use with it would be H110/296. I've used other powders too. I hear that Little Gun is really good with it, so I'll probably give that a run. But as I said, it's an easy cartridge to reload for. You got to just be careful not to crush the necks, because the necks on the cartridge are very thin. If you got any questions about the 22 Hornet, drop them in the comments. And then if there's a cartridge that you want me to take a look at, drop it in the comments. I enjoy trying to get back to business and making videos about, you know, old cartridges or fun cartridges, unique cartridges. And I hope to continue doing it on for a while. So thanks for joining me this afternoon. Have a good weekend.